And in this perspective, we have short answer type questions, and that is the first one from the Tiger King. What did the Tiger King predict of? Whether it is a misinterpreting. What did the astrologer predict of the royal prince born in the family of Britain? The astrologers predicted of the royal son born in the family of Padmapuram that he would be a great king, warrior of warriors, champion of champions, hero of heroes. But chief astrologer stopped for a moment, but when he was forced to speak, he also described or predicted of his death by a tiger. This was the prediction from the astrologers. And the next question is, why did the Tiger King decide to marry? The Tiger King decided to marry because the numbers of tigers in his state came to an end and he needed more tigers to kill. So he married to the princess of the nearby state to get the right to kill the tigers there and to fulfill his promise to kill the 100 tigers. And the short answer type question, the question number 3 is that why was the Maharaja in danger of losing his throne? Answer is very simple. Maharaja was once in danger of losing his throne because he refused the British officer to have a photograph with the hunted tiger. It was an insulting approach to the British officer. So that's why he got angry and it was the danger of losing his throne and the state just go to the National Congress. And the next question, how did the Tiger King retain his kingdom? The Tiger King had to cost 3 lakh rupees to send 50 samples of diamond rings to British officers' wife. And hence, the British officer's wife accepted all the 50 diamond rings and it agreed the British officer to the idea of hunting in the Vidvanpuram. And the next question is, how did the Tiger King die? One day, the Tiger King was playing with his son with a wooden tiger. At the same time, the wooden tiger had a rough surface and one of the squeeze passed into the palm of the Tiger King's hand and got infection. Infection increased and the surgeons were called for the treatment. Surgeons operated, but the Tiger King died. This was the condition. And there are the long answer type question. Describe the efforts made by the Tiger King to kill the 100 tigers. When the Tiger King became young, he remembered the astrologer's prediction of his death by a tiger. He started to kill the tigers first in his state, and it was the time when the British officer also desired to hunt a tiger in his state, but the Tiger King refused to allow him in his state for hunting, which made him angry, and finally he had to cost 3 lakh rupees to settle the matter. And after that, When the number of tigers came to an end in his state, he decided to marry to the nearby princess for this purpose. And he started also killing there the tigers. Finally, when the tigers uh, came to an end, and there was none was. Till then, the Tiger King had killed 99 tigers. One more was needed for this purpose, but it was very difficult to find the 100 tiger. Somehow, Diwan managed the 100 tiger from a park at Madras for a circus. Released the tiger while Maharaja was hunting. Maharaja found the tiger and was. He aimed the tiger, but the tiger rolled down at his place because of the fear before the bullet hit. Thus, the Tiger King could not succeed to kill the 100 tiger. And there is the most important chapter. This is, and there are the one more question sometimes can be asked about the long one. Who was the Tiger King? How did he try to avoid his death by the tiger? मतलब टाइगर किंग कौन थे और उन्होंने अपनी मौत से बचने के लिए क्या किया? कभी कभी ये क्वेश्चन ऐसा पूछ देता है। ये सिंपलिसिटी है, उसमें कोई दूसरी बात नहीं है, ये अपने आप में आसान। और तीसरा जो चैप्टर है, जर्नी टू द एंड ऑफ द अर्थ, धरती के एक छोर की यात्रा। ये चैप्टर किसानी दोषी जो साउथ इंडियन हैं, उन्होंने अपने उस ट्रेवलॉग से ली है जो वो रशियन रिसर्च जो वीजल था जिसका नाम था एकेडमिक स्काई, उस पर सवार होकर के वो अंटार्कटिका गई थी और एक प्रोग्राम था जिसका नाम था प्रोग्राम ऑन आइस, उसके तहत उनको ले जाया गया था। उस समय वो सेकेंडरी स्टूडेंट यानी हाई स्कूल की। पहला जो शॉर्ट आंसर टाइप क्वेश्चन से बनता है वो ये है कि व्हाट वाज गोंडवाना इन द पास्ट? आंसर इज वेरी सिंपल. Gondwana was an amalgamated landmass in the past where there was a huge variety of flora and fauna, and there were the creatures like dinosaurs and mammoth at that time. It was a warm place and expected that it was the Antarctica. And now the next question from this chapter. Describe the environmental features of Antarctica. अंटार्कटिका की जो पर्यावरणीय विशेषताएं हैं उसके बारे में वर्णन करिए। Antarctica is the coldest, driest, and windiest continent in the world. There are many ecospheres. There are many ecospheres and a circumpolar current between the two landmass to freeze it around it, and it also includes three bodies of water and nourish the entire food chain for the marine animals. And it is a landscape for a long distance full of white landscape. And now we come to the next one. What is phytoplankton? What is its role in the food chain of marine animals? Phytoplanktons are single-celled plants that nourish a 30% food chain of marine animals. They also participate in an important process called photosynthesis, in which it is a wonderfully way prepare or produce carbonic or other compound from after the synthesis. So that's why it is a very important part of life, especially in the marine animals, as far as the phytoplankton is concerned. And the next question is, what will happen if there is further depletion in ozone layer? क्या होगा यदि आगे ओजोन की परत में अधिक नुकसान हुआ? Answer is very simple. If there is further depletion in ozone layer, there will be effect on the activity of the phytoplankton, and it is a threat of global warming and also the melting glaciers, which anyway can destroy the marine lives as well as the entire sea or coastal town around it, and also the environment. So these are the few important questions based on it, and because of the lack of timing, I have to close this session. Once again, if I have time, I shall see it later. Till then, thank you for all of this watching, and जो लोग नए हैं कृपया वो सब्सक्राइब करें और शेयर करें और कमेंट करें ताकि फिर से प्रोत्साहन मिले हम आप लोगों के बीच में आ सकें। थैंक्स वेरी मच। Once again, welcome back to our channel. Amit sir, very good evening to all of you. And in the reference to supplementary lessons, we are going to summarize the last and the final lesson from supplementary. It's a lesson number 6, the storage of childhood. Where there are the two sections describing one hand Jitkalasa and on the other hand Vama. Both are a bitter experience of childhood. In the first section, Jitkalasa experiences as a strange manner is in the beginning of the lands of people, a city where she was in a hostel. She found something different, and it was the first bell rang. She saw the girls of her own belongings in a tight fitting clothes and tight shoes, while she was in loose garments, having long hair, and in a loose shoes. It was odd one for, and that's why she felt uneasy among those students there. And meanwhile, she felt sinking to the floor as her blanket was slipping out from a soldier. Meanwhile, she found a classmate girl, Judwin. Judwin was close to her, and Judwin heard about the voice of the pale-faced woman who was talking about cutting the hair of Jitkalasa. Everybody was there in short hair, but Jitkalasa was in the beginning period. That's why she had a long hair. At this, Judwin told Jitkalasa that she was talking about her hair. But as Jitkalasa did not lose courage, she told her that every possible way she would protest to cut her hair. But Judwin, knowing everything, tried to tell her that they were too strong to protest them. But Jitkalasa was rigid as she heard about her people that the hair singled to those who are either cowards or the men or women who mourned at someone's death. It was the belief that forced her to protest her cutting hair. Finally, the plan was made, and Jitkalasa, finding an opportunity, hid herself in the corner of the room where there was a darkness. Everybody was in search of Jitkalasa, and everywhere she was searched out. And finally, someone removed the curtain, and there was enough light to see around in the room. And finally, Jitkalasa was found under the bed. She was dragged out forcibly. Jitkalasa tried every possible way to protest them, but she was helpless when she was dragged out of the under the bed. And finally, she was tied to the chair, and she felt the edge of the blade while cutting her hair. Now she was helpless and was calling her mother, but nobody was there to comfort her. It was a bitter experience for Jitkalasa there. She thought it was immodest as she was not a coward, she was not one of those who mourned at someone's death. So it was a bitter experience for Jitkalasa there, which was immoral for her as she had good belief in her mind. And in the next section, we met a girl, Bama, who was belonged to the downtrodden caste, I mean, especially the scheduled caste. And even she did not know about the things like untouchability. One day, Jitkalasa, during her return from school, saw an old man hanging a package and holding the string far away from her hands. And it was something like badai, a kind of banana vegetables or something like that. She was in a mood to laugh to see the way the old man caught the package, but finally she poured it up. It was the time when Mama returned from school. He kept on watching the things what is happening in the street as the street play and different types of fruits and different types of delicious dishes and a kind of play, a kind of snake charmers, a kind of monkey kept a man dancing like that, everything. So each and everything distracted her attention, and finally she got late for home. Near about 30 minutes spent because of this. When Mama told about the story of the old man to her brother Anand, Anand was a mature one and he understood each and everything what she told her. And finally, he explained the thing to Mama that it was because of untouchability, the old man trying to make it sacred, not to be touched, as it was just like touchability and it may be the polluted one. So, in such a situation, he was like that, behaving the things. But at this, Mama got angry and thought of this. But Anand told her that each and everything is because we are backwards. And the most important thing, education to be invested in the category of those people at high rank. And he told her that she must read too much. She must read with full attention and with the wish to do something better, to be exceptional and at a high rank, then the people will come to him and show the respect. The words proved to be a tonic for Bama, and finally she worked hard and got a good position in the education. And since then, she understood that what an important thing education is to get a good rank in life. So thus the both the lessons describes about the bitter experience of the childhood, and finally the last one was the most important because it was based on the untouchability. Untouchability can be removed after the education and after a hard work to become something which society needs. If we are among those at high rank, we shall be considered by the people in the surrounding to pay their respect for civility. So thus the lesson comes to end with the conclusion of both the parts of this. Now the important question based as far as both the lessons are, what bitter experience did Jatkalasa feel at the land of apples? What did Jitkalasa hear from Judwin? And what did she decide against it? And what happened to Jitkadasa after all? And now, when we move to the Bama, what were the things that attracted to Bama and she got late to return from school to home? And second question was there, what funny things did she find with the old man on the day? And what the third question is there, what did Anand advise Bama about the story of the old man? So these are the short questions based on the both part of the section of the lesson. And now we have a few words in Hindi to discuss and summarize about it. In the first one was Jitkadasa. Let us we have a few words in Hindi. Jitkadasa एक ऐसी अमेरिकन भारतीय लड़की है जिसको नेपल्स शहर एपस के शहर में एक कट अनुभव का सामना करना पड़ा, जहां पर कुछ ठंडी के मौसम में वो ढीले पोशाक में थी और कंबल ओढ़े हुई थी और अपने ढीले जूते में थी। लेकिन जो पहला दिन था वहां पर उसने अपने ही ग्रुप की उन लड़कियों को देखा जो फिटिंग यानी टाइट कपड़ों में थी और उनके बाल छोटे थे और वे अपनी टाइट जूते में थी। जिटकलासा ने इस चीज को देखने के बाद में ये समझा कि कितनी अमर्यादित चीज है ये, क्योंकि बचपन से उसने भारतीय कल्चर को पूरी तरह से अपने जीवन में समाहित कर दिया था, जहां पर ढीले पोशाकों की परंपरा है और बड़े बालों को रखने की परंपरा है। ये सब देखने के बाद जिटकलासा पूरी तरीके से उन सब चीजों से बिल्कुल प्रभावित हुई और तभी उसकी एक सहेली जुड़बिन ने उससे बताया कि एक पीले चेहरे वाली जो औरत थी, जो वार्डन थी, वह उसके कपड़ों को लेकर के, उसके लंबे बालों को लेकर के चर्चा कर रही थी। जिटकलासा को इस पर जो है थोड़ी आशंका हुई और उसने जुड़बिन से बताया कि वो अपने बालों को किसी भी कीमत पर कटने नहीं देगी और यथासंभव उसका विरोध करेगी। और समय पाकर के जिटकलासा ने अपने आप को उस अंधेरे कमरे के एक कोने में बिस्तर के नीचे छिपा दिया। लेकिन ये सब कहाँ चलने वाला था? तभी सारे सदस्यों के द्वारा जिटकलासा की तलाश की गई और उसे ढूंढ निकाला गया जब पर्दे को वहां पर हटाया गया। जिटकलासा को बलपूर्वक उस बिस्तर के नीचे से खींच करके लाया गया और उसको कुर्सी से बांध दिया गया, जहां पर उनके उस प्रिय बालों को काटा गया। जिस समय उसके बालों को काटा गया उसे बहुत ही अमर्यादित महसूस हुआ, जैसा कि उसने इस मान्यता को सुन रखा था कि बाल उन्हीं लोगों के काटे जाते हैं जो कायर होते हैं, या उन लोगों के काटे जाते हैं जो किसी मृत व्यक्ति के ऊपर शोक मनाते हैं। दोनों विचारधाराओं ने जिटकलासा को पूरी तरह से प्रभावित किया। उसने अपने आप को असहाय महसूस किया और अपनी माता के लिए पूरी तरीके से वो चिल्लाई, लेकिन वहां सब कुछ बेकार था। अब हम इस पाठ के दूसरे हिस्से में पहुंचेंगे, जहां पर बामा नामक एक लड़की रहती है जो दलित संप्रदाय से संबंध रखती है। वह विद्यालय से लौटते समय रास्ते में नुक्कड़ नाटक और अनेकों प्रकार के फल की दुकानें और तांत्रिकों के द्वारा दिखाए जाने वाले खेल, इन सब को देख करके मार्ग में थोड़े समय के लिए रुक जाती है। कभी कभी उसे बहुत लंबा समय लग जाता और घर को लौटने में देर हो जाती। इसी क्रम में एक दिन उसने अपने ही समुदाय के एक वयोवृद्ध व्यक्ति को देखा जो एक थैले में कुछ केले की सब्जी जैसी चीज लेकर के आ रहा था और डोरी को बहुत दूर से पकड़े हुए था। मामा ने इसे हास्यास्पद समझा और हंसना चाहा। उसे ऐसा लगा कि ये मजाक बस ऐसा हो रहा है, क्योंकि उसने देखा कि वो व्यक्ति जो है उसको इस थैले को ऐसे पकड़ करके ले जा रहा था और उस जमींदार की ओर लेकर के जा रहा था जो एक ऊंचे स्थान पर बैठा हुआ था और सभी को आदेश दे रहा था कार्य करने के लिए। सारी बातें उसने अपने बड़े भाई अनंत को बताई और जब उसने उसे ये बात बताई तो वो सारी चीज समझ गया। उसने अपनी बहन को ये बताया कि ये अछूत के कारण है। अब तक जो है बामा को अछूत के बारे में पता नहीं था और उसे बताया कि इसको तभी मिटाया जा सकता है जब वो पूर्ण रूप से मन लगाकर पढ़ेगी और मन लगाकर पढ़ने के बाद में वह शीर्ष पर पहुंचने का प्रयत्न करेगी। जब हम शीर्ष पर पहुंच जाएंगे, उस श्रेष्ठ दर्जे को प्राप्त करेंगे, तो ये जो समाज है या इस समुदाय के जो लोग हैं वो विवश होकर के हमसे जुड़ेंगे और तभी जा करके हम इस जो है छुआछूत के भेदभाव को मिटा पाएंगे। कहानी, दोनों जो कहानियां हैं ये बचपन के उस कट अनुभव का जिक्र करती हैं जो पूरी तरीके से हमारे जीवन को हिला करके रख देता है और हम इसके प्रभाव में आ जाते हैं। लेकिन जो दूसरी कहानी है वो आज भी इस समाज को एक ऐसा आईना दिखाती है कि बिना शिक्षा के हम श्रेष्ठता को प्राप्त नहीं कर सकते हैं। शिक्षा ही वह उपकरण है, वह आधुनिक अस्त्र है जिसके माध्यम से हम अपने आप को एक सम्मानजनित वातावरण में पा सकते हैं। तो ये रहे आपके इन दोनों खंडों का हिंदी में रूपांतरण जो आपके अंतिम पाठ स्टोरी ऑफ चाइल्डहुड से लिए गए हैं। इसको ध्यानपूर्वक पढ़िएगा, अभ्यास करिएगा। कहीं भी किसी भी प्रकार की कोई समस्या आती है तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में भी इसके बारे में बात कर सकते हैं। वैसे पूरी कोशिश की गई है कि आपको अच्छे ढंग से समझाया जाए। जैसा कि कुछ बच्चों ने कहा था कि सर हिंदी में इसका रूपांतरण कर दिया करें, उन्हीं की प्रस्तुति के लिए इसको रखा गया है। वस्तुतः इंटरमीडिएट का जो पाठ्यक्रम होता है वो इंग्लिश मीडियम से ही रिलेटेड होता है, क्योंकि यहाँ पर दोहरा मेहनत करना पड़ता है। आप हिंदी में सुनते हैं, समझते हैं, फिर उसके बाद उसको ट्रांसलेट करते हैं। लेकिन चूंकि बैकग्राउंड पृष्ठभूमि वैसी नहीं है इसलिए आपको ऐसा करना पड़ रहा है। उसके लिए कोई बात नहीं, आप प्रयास करें और इसको समझने की पूरी कोशिश करें। और अंत में जो नए लोग हैं इसको देख रहे हैं, कृपया वो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दें ताकि आप लोगों का प्रोत्साहन मिलता रहेगा, उतनी ही ऊर्जा से हम आगे बढ़ते रहेंगे। धन्यवाद। Dear students, very good evening to you. And in the reference to our supplementary edition, we are going once again to summarize the next lesson, lesson number 5, which is a play. And in this play, there is an important character of Mr. Lamb and a boy who is 14 years old, Derry. Both are partially disabled. Mr. Lamb is matured man leading to old age, while Derry, a teenager who has one side face burnt with acid. Derry is downcast because of his burnt face and avoids the people's company because the people look at his face and comment. And in this escapement, by chance, he passes through Mr. Lamb's garden, finding it quiet and peaceful, and as a privacy, Derry sneaks away to Mr. Lamb's garden secretly, but finds surprised to hear Mr. Lamb's voice. And suddenly he meets a man like this. Derry becomes angry and decides to make a plan to go away from there. But somehow Mr. Lamb tries to explain the things very well. Derry always makes a question in different ways. Mr. Lamb is a matured man. He has experienced and studied the things very well. He is bold and fearless. Even disabled with one leg, having a 10 legs, he learned how to do the works in the garden. He is open-hearted and kind-hearted man likes the company of anyone. By the other hand, Derry, a teenager, always avoid the people, thinking that the people would see him and comment at him. But both meet each other, and there is an argument to take the different things. Derry always blames the people and his burnt face, which makes him to think like negative in life. But in spite of all this, Mr. Lamb always explains him that there are other things which he can do and become a positive one in life. But Derry, being depressed, always thinks of his negativity and finally blames himself and other people to comment on it. Mr. Lamb gives him a different types of examples and mentions about a story who hides himself in the house because he has the fear that his feet has on his skin, banana skin, and he slips away down the path and the people will laugh at him. And also that while traveling on the road, a vehicle, a bus or motor bus drive over him and to knock him down. And a girl with whom she or he falls in love and she cheats him away. And different kinds of things he was thinking in his mind. And what happened? One day, a picture in the room fell upon him and he died. Larry laughs at this very much. And Mr. Lamb after all, Derry himself does different types of things, and finally, Mr. Lamb tries to answer all questions very well. And Mr. Lamb explains him very well. But in spite of all these positive references, Derry remains stay at his burnt face, thinking that everything will change in the world, but his face would not change. And at last, Mr. Lamb tries to ignore him and to move to the beach, saying that you will not come here again if you visit your home. Terry finds challengeable in such a situation and promises Mr. Lamb that he does not know about him what he can do. Mr. Lamb at this tells him it is only his work to do such kind of thing. But once again Mr. Lamb challenges, telling him that he will not come here again after departure from the guard. But Derry promises Mr. Lamb to come back again in the guard. After all, Derry visits his home again and finding her mother there, his mother there. His mother was asking him where he was. Derry replies her each and everything happened at the garden and lightning for the garden. But Derry's mother stops him to stay there at home. Derry replies her that each and everything in the garden attracts to him. So he prefers to go there. And finally, Derry sneaks away the house and finds himself again in Lamb's garden. But here, Mr. Lambs fell down from the ladder and died. Derry cries loudly, but finds Mr. Lamb dead and feels sorry for it. The lesson, the play comes to an end with the lesson that a good man, a motivator, Mr. Lamb, dies who finds a doorway for Derry who is downcast in the story. And Derry becomes a positive one to face all the challenges in the life. The lesson is a motivation the young generation who is distracted even away from him. Now we have in Hindi पाठ ऑन द फेस ऑफ इट एक नाटक है जो एक वयस्क यानी वयोवृद्ध मिस्टर लैम और एक 14 वर्षीय बालक डेरी के बीच की कहानी है। डेरी के बाएं ओर का जो चेहरा है वो तेजाब से झुलस जाता है, जिसकी वजह से वो भागा भागा फिरता है और अपने आप को घर में कैद करके रखता है। जब कभी भी बाहर वो निकलता है तो उसे ऐसा लगता है कि लोग उसके चेहरे को देखते हैं और डर जाते हैं और उसके ऊपर भद्दे भद्दे कमेंट करते हैं, इसलिए वो लोगों से बचना चाहता है। इसी क्रम में वो एक दिन घर से बाहर निकलता है और भागते भागते एक बगीचे के पास पहुंचता है जो मिस्टर लैम का बगीचा होता है। ये देख करके कि वहां पर शांत है, प्राकृतिक वातावरण है, कोई व्यक्ति नहीं है, वो चुपके से उस बगीचे में प्रवेश करता है दीवार फांद करके। लेकिन जब उसे मिस्टर लैम की आवाज सुनाई देती है तो वो चौंक जाता है और फिर से वहां से भागने का निश्चय कर लेता है। मिस्टर लैम उसे समझाते हैं कि उसे वहां से भागने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। कई अन्य बच्चे वहां पर आते हैं और खेलते हैं और फलों को प्राप्त करते हैं। वो उन्हें टॉफियां भी देते हैं और उन्हें आराम से खाते हैं। मिस्टर लैम उन्हें बताते हैं कि उनके पास भी एक पैर नहीं है, असली जो पैर है वो युद्ध में चला गया था, इसलिए उन्होंने टिन का पैर लगवाया है। लेकिन डेरी उनसे कहता है कि वे उसके ऊपर ट्राउजर यानी पैजामा या पैंट पहन लेते हैं और वो हिस्सा छिप जाता है, लेकिन उसका आधा जला हुआ जो चेहरा है वो नहीं छिपता है। इसलिए डेरी कई बार कटाक्ष करता है और मिस्टर लैम से काफी देर तक तर्क करता है। मिस्टर लैम एक धैर्यशील व्यक्ति हैं, वो उसे पूर्ण रूप से समझाने का प्रयास करते हैं और यथाउचित उदाहरण देकर के समझाते हैं। एक बार तो वे उसे एक ऐसा उदाहरण देते हैं जिसमें एक व्यक्ति डर के मारे अपने आप को घर में कैद करके रखता है कि कहीं उसके पैर केले के छिलके पर न पड़ जाए और वो फिसल करके न गिर जाए, कहीं कोई वाहन सड़क पर चलते समय उसके ऊपर न चढ़ जाए, उसे कुचल न दे, किसी लड़की से वो प्रेम करे और उसे धोखा देकर न चले जाए। ऐसी कुछ बातों को लेकर के वो घर में अधिकतर समय कैद रखता था। एक दिन दुर्भाग्यवश एक पेंटिंग उसके सिर पे ऊपर गिरी और वो मृत्यु को प्राप्त हो गई। इस पर डेरी जो है हंसता है। मिस्टर लैम भी उसका साथ देते हैं। लेकिन सारे उदाहरणों के बावजूद डेरी बार बार यही कहता है कि दुनिया की हर चीज बदल सकती है, लेकिन उसका जो आधा जला हुआ चेहरा है वो नहीं बदल सकता है। मिस्टर लैम उसे समझाते हैं कि जीवन में केवल जला हुआ चेहरा ही सब कुछ, बहुत सारे ऐसे कार्य हैं जिनको करके वो अपना जीवन यापन कर सकता है और अपने जीवन को श्रेष्ठ बना सकता है। लेकिन डेरी कहता है कि जब कभी भी लोग उसके चेहरे को देखते हैं तो यही कहते हैं कि ये वो चेहरा है जिसको केवल माँ पसंद करेगी, कोई और नहीं पसंद करेगा। इसलिए वो लोगों से दूर भागता है और लोगों के उस टीका टिप्पणी से बचना चाहता है। बार बार वो कहता है कि कोई भी उसे प्रेम नहीं करेगा, कोई भी उसके गाल पर चुंबन नहीं देगा, केवल उसकी माँ ही करेगी, क्योंकि उसे ऐसा करना पड़ता है। मिस्टर लैम डेरी को पूर्ण तरीके से उचित उदाहरण देकर के समझाते हैं और आखिरकार डेरी जो है उसे यही कहता है कि सब कुछ बदल सकता है, लेकिन उसका चेहरा नहीं बदल सकता है। मिस्टर लैम कहते हैं ये एक अच्छा बहाना है, पर चले जाओगे तो तुम वापस इस बगीचे में नहीं आ पाओगे। डेरी कहता है कि मिस्टर लैम से कि उन्हें ये नहीं मालूम कि वो क्या कर सकता है। मिस्टर लैम कहते हैं भाई ये चीज आप ही कर सकते हो, ये आप ही के ऊपर है। लेकिन वो कहते हैं कि अगर तुम एक बार यहाँ से गए तो तुम घर से वापस नहीं आ पाओगे। डेरी कहता है वापस आ जाऊंगा, मैं वापस आ जाऊंगा, देख लेना। डेरी घर जाता है जहाँ पर अपनी माँ को पाता है। उसकी माँ उससे कहती है कि तुम्हें वहाँ जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, मुझे पता है कि लोग कैसी कैसी बातें करते हैं। डेरी कहता नहीं, मुझे वो जगह अच्छी लगती है, मुझे उसके विचार अच्छे लगते हैं, मुझे वहाँ सब कुछ अच्छा लगता है और अगर मैं इस समय वहाँ नहीं जा पाया तो कभी दोबारा नहीं जा पाऊंगा। अपनी माँ के कई बार रुकने के बावजूद भी डेरी फिर से मिस्टर लैम के बगीचे में और जब वहां पहुंचता है तो देखता है कि मिस्टर लैम सीढ़ियों से गिर गए होते हैं और मृतप्राय होते हैं और उनकी मृत्यु हो जाती है। डेरी बहुत जोर से चिल्लाता है, सिसकियां भरता है और पूरी तरह से रोता है और पश्चाताप करता है। लेकिन वो व्यक्ति जिसने उनका मार्गदर्शन किया डेरी का, वो इस दुनिया में नहीं है। नाटक या एकांकी इस चीज को सिखाती है कि जीवन में हमें विषम परिस्थितियों में भी धैर्यवान होकर के आने वाली कल का आने वाली चुनौतियों का सामना करना होता है। ये कमियां या कई कमियां होने के बावजूद भी जीवन के कुछ अलग पहलू हैं जिनको हमें समझना होगा और उन्हीं के आधार पर जीवन को जीना होगा। किसी चीज से अगर हम अपने एस्केप में ढूंढते हैं यानी उससे दूर हटने की कोशिश करते हैं तो जीवन का अंतिम लक्ष्य नहीं है। जीवन को हमें चुनौतियों का सामना करके जीना ही पड़ेगा। इस पाठ को ध्यानपूर्वक पढ़ें और महत्वपूर्ण बिंदुओं पर ध्यान दें। इस सारांश को आप समझिएगा और उसके बाद कमेंट में शेयर करके बताइएगा कि ये आपको कैसा लगे। और जो नए लोग देख रहे हैं वो कृपया चैनल को सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें। धन्यवाद। It's a very good morning to all of you. And now in poetry session, we are going to analyze the poem My Mother at 66 by Kamla Das. In this poem, the poet talks about the aging process, which is common, but as the poetess is very close to her mother, she always has the fear to lose her in her old age, and she looks very old and painful. She realizes the pain and also the aging process. While driving to Cochin, she realizes her mother sitting beside her in the plane. It was a closeness. She found her open mouth, dozed, and a very big one like a corpse, Hassan leaves. And after traveling some distance through an aeroplane, the poetess saw young children coming out joyfully of the house and the trees moving towards the forest. In this situation, the poetess, for a moment, is lost in such kind of ideology where she forgets about her mother's terrible oldness. But after all, as soon as she crosses the scene of the children and the running trees, she once again finds her mother standing few yards away in same pale face. And here the poetess smiles to her and expecting to see her again. And now we conclude the poetic diction in the poem. The poem is full of simile as far as the poetic diction is concerned. The words using like as so. The lines are as a late winter's moon, as like carbs. So these are the lines signifies the poetic diction, the figure of speech simile. The poem is pathetic one. Even in such a situation, when anybody closes to anyone, always has the fear in losing someone in old age. And now we move to the questions from this poem. The first question is, where was the poetess going? What did she see in aeroplane? The poetess was going to Cochin and she saw her mother sitting beside her. What thought forgot away and when? कौन से विचार चले गए और कब? When the poetess saw young children coming out of the house joyfully and trees running, she forgot the idea of her mother's terrible goodness. And now the third question is there. What is the poetic device in the line as a late winter's moon? So as we have already mentioned, where the words used like as so with the comparison, it is a simile. So in this line, it is a simile. And now we are going to just discuss about the central idea of the poem My Mother at 66. In this poem, the poetess Kamla Das describes about the aging process of a man, symbolizing her mother who is very big with yellow face. And she describes about her childhood fear to lose her mother, and in this poem she finds in such a situation when she looks at her old mother. After all, she forget the idea of her mother's terrible oldness when she saw different sights as the young children coming out of the house and also the trees running. But at the same time, she finds her mother once again standing few yards away, and she waits her, seeing that she would see her again. Hence, the poem comes to conclusion that aging process is natural. It is a very important one, especially in a man's life. The poetess has a pathetic approach towards uh, humanity, which is presented in here. The poem is figure of speech and also the poetic beauty. In this poem, though it looks like a simple one, but a very beautiful and pathetic one. Now we have few words in Hindi as the students demanded. The poem My Mother at 66 ये एक
बहुत ही मर्मस्पर्शी कविता है। स्वाभाविक रूप से एक जो है महिला का अपनी माँ से उस एज में बिछड़ने जैसा, जो बहुत ही बूढ़ी हैं और किसी प्रकार से चल फिर पाती हैं, जैसा कि वो शारीरिक रूप से असमर्थ हैं, बिल्कुल निर्जीव की तरह प्रतीत होती हैं। उनका जो चेहरे का भाव है वो मुंह खुला हुआ है, औंघाया हुआ है, और पूरी तरीके से ये जो भाव दिख रहा है ये बिल्कुल मृतप्राय की तरह होता है। इसलिए कविता जो है पूर्ण रूपेण एक बड़ी ही मर्मस्पर्शी हो जाती है। कवित्री बैठी हुई है वायुयान में, लेकिन वो अपनी माँ के विषय में चिंतन कर रही है, और वो चिंतन करते हुए उनको अपने समीपस्थ पाती है। कुछ समय के उपरांत जब यात्रा आगे बढ़ती है तो वो जो है युवा बच्चों की फौज को देखती है, जो अपने घर से बाहर आ रहे होते हैं, बड़े ही प्रसन्नचित्त मुद्रा में होते हैं, और उन वृक्षों को भी देखती है जो पूरी तरह से गतिशीलता में नजर आते हैं। जैसे वो इन सबको देखती है वो भूल जाती है कि स्वाभाविक रूप से उसकी माता जी कितनी बूढ़ी हैं, और उनका जो पुराना दर्द है वो कैसा है, क्योंकि ये एक प्रकार से परिवर्तन की स्थिति है, जहाँ पर कुछ समय के लिए मन का चिंतन उन बच्चों की ओर और उन वृक्षों की ओर चला जाता है। लेकिन जीवन में जो वास्तविकता है वो पुनः हमारे चिंतन स्तर पे आती है, और एक बार फिर से जो कवियत्री है वो पुनः अपनी माँ का चिंतन करती है, और सामने उनको कुछ गज की दूरी पर खड़ी हुई पाती है। वही पीला सब चेहरा, वही असमर्थ और कमजोर चेहरा, और वही जो है शारीरिक भाव, जिसको देखने के बाद में कवित्री फिर से उनसे विदा लेती है, और ये कहती है कि माँ आपसे शीघ्र मुलाकात होगी। इसके सिवाय कवित्री के पास कुछ था नहीं, वो बस केवल उन्हें देखकर मुस्कुराती गई और मुस्कुराती गई। कविता, जैसा कि पूर्व में विदित है, आप जान चुके हैं, मर्मस्पर्शी है, और जो एजिंग प्रोसेस है, बुढ़ापे की जो प्रक्रिया है, ये निरंतर सभी को आनी है। ये जीवन की स्वाभाविक रूप से सच्चाई है। अगर सामयिक जो है जीवन शैली का जिक्र किया जाए, मृत्यु का जिक्र किया जाए, स्वाभाविक रूप से ये जो उम्र है ये एक ऐसा पड़ाव है जहाँ पर हर किसी को अपनेपन का एहसास होता है, और अपनेपन से अलग होने पर उसको कष्ट का आभास होता है। कवित्री अपनी माताजी को छोड़कर जाने की स्थिति में नहीं थी, लेकिन चूंकि कुछ ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण कार्य होते हैं जिनको स्वाभाविक रूप से करने के लिए जाना पड़ता है, तो उसे इस चीज का डर लगा था कि कहीं उसकी माँ को कुछ हो न जाए, और यही जो डर था वो अपनी पूरी यात्रा में बांधे हुई थी। यात्रा के दौरान बार बार उसको अपनी माँ का चिंतन होता था, और उस चिंतन के स्तर पर वो अपनी माँ की उस तस्वीर को बार बार देखती थी। कविता कवित्री का अपने माता के प्रति एक गहरे लगाव से संबंधित है, जिसमें वो बार बार उनके आने का जिक्र करती है। अलंकार की दृष्टि से देखा जाए तो अंग्रेजी में जिसको सिमरी कहा जाता है, उपमा अलंकार का समावेश है। इसके अंतर्गत सो, ऐ, लाइक जैसे शब्दों का समावेश अगर पंक्तियों में दिखाई देता है तो वो जो कविता है वो उपमा अलंकार कही जाती है। इसमें दो लाइनें आई हैं जिसमें उपमा अलंकार का समावेश देखने को मिलता है, जैसे कि एसन लाइक कार्व्स एज इन लेट विंटर्स मून। ये दो जो पंक्तियां हैं ये उस उपमा अलंकार को दर्शाती हैं। कविता भले ही छोटी है, भले ही साधारण है, लेकिन इसकी जो विषय वस्तु है वो यूनिवर्सल है, सार्वभौमिक है, और ये एक गहरा प्रभाव हमारे जीवन में छोड़ जाती है, जिसको हमको सहर्ष स्वीकार करना होता है। कविता जीवन की उस अवस्था का वर्णन करती है जो ठीक बचपने का विपरीत होता है, वृद्धा अवस्था होती है, और इसके अंतर्गत जो बड़े बूढ़े होते हैं हमसे, जो अपने आप में असहाय होते हैं, लाचार होते हैं, उन्हें किसी के केयर की जरूरत होती है, और वही कवित्री अपनी माता के लिए कर रही थी। और जब वो वहाँ से निकल रही थी तो उसको अपने माता से बिछोड़ने के बारे में बहुत ही अत्यधिक आभास हो रहा था, इसलिए बार बार उसको अपनी माँ की याद आ रही थी, और वो हमेशा उनको अपने आसपास पा रही थी। यद्यपि कुछ ऐसे दृश्य थे जिनसे वो थोड़े समय के लिए अपनी माता जी के उस चिंतन से दूर होती थी, लेकिन वास्तविकता यही थी कि फिर से वो जो चिंतन है वो उसके पास वापस आ जाता था। तो ये रही कविता के मूल विचारों पर आधारित चर्चा। जो हमने इस सेक्शन में की। आगे के सेक्शन में हम कीपिंग क्वाइट नामक कविता का जो है फिर से आकलन करेंगे। तब तक के लिए आप लोग ढंग से पढ़ें। कहीं भी कोई दिक्कत हो तो आप उसके माध्यम से सूचित करें। जो नए लोग हैं कृपया वो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दें, और ताकि आपको नई वीडियोस जल्दी से जल्दी उसका अपडेशन आपको मिलता रहे। देखने के लिए धन्यवाद।
It's a very good morning to all of friends and all the viewers watching this important session. And now in the poetry section, the last one from Edenridge. The name of the poem is Aunt Jennifer Tigers. It is a remarkable poem, and the contrasting and the irony in this poem as the artist who herself picturizing the tigers on the screen. But is afraid in her real life because of her parents, because of wedding. The poetess Edenridge always mentioned about the freedom and also the complicated life where there is social bondage, there is suffering because of the life which is full of bondage. In this poem, the poetess Edenridge describes a feminine character, Aunt Jennifer. Aunt Jennifer draws a picture of tigers on the panel on the screen. Tiger is very fast without any fear, without any anxiety, as they live in the green forest, having the color yellow and topaz. There is no fear in their mind, as they have no bondage. They have their own area where nobody can enter. So that's why they secure. They run without any uncertainty. They pace in their own speed. On the contrary, the poetess describes the second stanza that Aunt Jennifer finds very difficult even to enter the ivory needle while knitting. And she finds a very difficult, she finds troublesome even, as far as the potential is concerned, pull the ivory needle. And she realizes the burden which is as a wedding ring, uncle's wedding ring, and she finds it very heavy, burdensome. And that's why she always feels scared. In the third stanza, the poetess comes to the conclusion that Aunt Jennifer will be mastered by the uncle, and all the ornament and the jewel, whatever she had, will be mastered by the uncle. And even after death, because of the wedding ring, she will be mastered by the aunt, uncle. So that's why
In this poem, the poem is just ironical. The poem is just contrasting figure because the man, because one who draws a picture of a tiger who is a free without any bondage and move any fair. On the contrary, one who draws it lives a life which is full of bondage, a life where there is anxiety, where there is a fear. Rich describes that what kind of life is bondage. And a human perspective where a man is dominating over women character as a husband.
और मोबाइल मेरी भी ले आएगा तुम
The poem, though looks very simple, but leaves a lasting impression there. Now we have some important questions related to this important. Stanza number first. How do the tigers eat? The answer is very simple. The tiger is sleep without any fear. Question number 2. Where do the tigers denies? The word denies means live. The tigers denies in green forest. Question number 3 is there any fear in tigers? The answer is no, there is no any fear in tigers. Now we move to the second step. Where the first question is how does the Aunt Jennifer find while knitting with ivory needle? Aunt Jennifer finds it hard to push or pull the ivory needle while knitting. How does she feel the wedding ring on her hand? She feels the wedding ring like a burden, which snatches her freedom. And the last instance, there is a question. What will happen if Aunt Jennifer Tigers dies? If Aunt Jennifer Tigers dies, so she will depart from the world, but because of the wedding ring, she is mastered by. Poem is aesthetic. Poem is picturizing or portraying two types of people. One hand, the picture of the tigers that show the dominance in their atmosphere, in their area. While the other hand, a human being, one who draws a picture on the screen will remain in bondage, remain in slavery because of married life that there is. Now a quick summary, that is known as also, but the most important one, the central idea. In this poem, Aunt Jennifer Tigers, the poetess Metternich describes about Aunt Jennifer, who created a picture of the tiger on the screen that run very fast. But on the other hand, he herself picturizes as Aunt Jennifer, where she finds very hard losing the freedom because of the marriage. And that's why the poem is a contrasting figure. On one hand, there is the tiger that runs fast without any fear. On the other hand, Aunt Jennifer finds herself uneasy because of the bondage of marriage. So these are the important points in this poem. We have described it for those who are listeners in Hindi, just a few. कविता एंड जेनिफर टाइगर्स एक ऐसी कविता है जिसमें एक व्यंग देखने को मिलता है। टाइगर्स को बनाने वाली और जेनिफर है, वो उसका चित्र एक पर्दे पर बनाती है जहाँ पर वो निर्भय होकर के विद्वान अवस्था में दिखाई देती है। वे हरे जंगल के निवासी है और निर्भय होकर के, निश्चिंत होकर के एक गति से बनवाती है। दूसरी ओर आंट जेनिफर बुनाई कर रही हैं और वो हाथी दांत बनी हुई जो सुई है उसको भेदने में, उसको खींचने में असहजता महसूस करती है। वो बार बार अपनी उस विवाह की अंगूठी को देखती है जो बार बार उन्हें एहसास कराती है। Very good morning to all of you, the students in this session, and we are now going to discuss about the poem number 3 from class 12th standard, A Thing of Beauty. In this poem, the poet John Keats describes about the beauty, which is not for a short time, but it is for a long one. According to him, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It means the beauty does not fade, but also moves away, and it also gets more attraction. And it helps all of us who are sick, who are downcast, and create a peaceful atmosphere around us to provide us a sleep which is full of rest and an atmosphere where we can take free breath and free thinking. And also, it is a boon for those who are depressed, who are sick, and who are broken in health, and also who are negative in ideas. A beauty creates an atmosphere where things is just a totally difference. It refreshes all of us with mind, intelligence, and also the creative approach so that we can enjoy the life in peaceful atmosphere. In this poem, the poet glorifies a thing of beauty which always provides a joy for all of us. It has been seen that in man's life there is always stress, anxiety, fear, and depression like things. But whenever a thing of beauty, which is in different forms, sometimes the physical, and sometimes the spiritual, and sometimes the purity of mind, But the most important thing is the purity of mind and the purity of thought and as well as the purity of spirit, which always flows in man's mind just like a soothing air. And with the help of this, he feels himself comfortable. And in such a situation, it is a tonic for all of them. And whenever we talk about the beauty, especially for all of us, that when we are downcast, when we are depression, then we need something, the positive ideas, which is through the great writers that help us to overcome a kind of depression, a kind of negative approach in life. And as far as the natural beauty is concerned, it is reflected in the poem through trees, forest, and springs, and all of these help the wild animals as well as other creatures in the forest to provide them comfort. For an example, the sheep are enjoying the beautiful things in the nature as sunlight, as the moon light, as well as the water that from the river. And in the forest, there is seen a different types of natural sights, a kind of fragrance by the flowers that spread out on the soil in the forest. There is musk there
ये दद्दू
and also
नहीं मेरा मोबाइल
the
ले आई है ना
daffodils that are the flowers that always create a fragrant air in the forest where there is desolation for some time. So these are the things that beautifies as a living one, but now there are also the dead one who become a great in their life and also glorifies all of us with their important writings, lessons that they have stored in their books. And their books, even after the death, always glorifies us, always benefits us, their lessons and the writings. Whenever we read or listen from someone else, they emerge as an immortal drink
ये
and
क्या कर रहे
somehow
थे देर से
force us to a heaven's is. Thus, the mighty dead ones also have their potential to beautify and glorify all of us. The poem is a metaphorical approach. The line "A thing of beauty is a joy forever" refers to the poetic diction metaphor. And in this poem, the poetess uses the imagery as the keep quiet boar as well as the forest, daffodils, and also the musk deer, a kind of imagery that beautifies the poem in a rhetorical tone. And now the few important questions from this poem are: how does the poet John Keats regard a thing of beauty? And the answer is the poet regards a thing of beauty a joy forever. Its loveliness increases and it never comes into nothingness. Question number two: how does it help the people to provide them comfortable atmosphere? ये लोगों को किस प्रकार आरामदायक वातावरण प्रदान करती है? A thing of beauty creates a bower for all of us to provide us good sleep and a good health to live a life full of comfort. Question number three: how does it help those people who are depressed and anxious or completely in stress? A thing of beauty also emerges from thought of beauty, and hence it always guides us to good become a positive one in life, and it is an inspiration for those who are depressed and downcast in life. Now the question number next is, how does a thing of beauty prove to be a boon for the simple sheep and other animals in the forest? किस प्रकार से सुंदरता नामक चीज पेड़ और अन्य जीवों के लिए जंगल में वरदान के रूप में साबित होती है?
आजा आजा
As far as the natural beauty is concerned, it proves to be a boon for the sheep and other living animals in the forest. The sun provides them a heat, and the moonlight provides them a humble light, a very comfortable light, and also the springs or the river's water make them a cooling atmosphere in such a hot season. And now the concluding stanza has a few questions to ask. In the concluding stanza, how do the mighty ones, how do the mighty ones help us? जो मृत लोग हैं वह हमारे लिए किस प्रकार से सहायक होते हैं? The mighty ones leave their writing after their death. That always provides us several types of learning by their important lessons in their text or books whenever we read them. The question next is, how does they come unto us from the heaven? किस प्रकार से वे स्वर्ग से हमारे पास आती हैं? All their writings is just like an immortal drink, and it controls everywhere, and also as an immortal storage of uh, drink, and finally it pours on to the poet from the edge of the heaven. So the poem comes to conclusion and with a reference like this. And the poet has also the concluding central idea. In this poem, the poet John Keats glorifies the spiritual, natural beauty of the poem, which always helps us different ways, and it also makes a peaceful atmosphere for all of us to provide us comfortable sleep, and it proves to be a boon for those animals who are in the forest, and also spreads out fragrance and beauty in this reference, and finally finds that the mighty dead ones also become a comfortable note for all of us. Dear students, it's a welcome back to